Hey everyone, how's it going? Brian here with another Java game programming tutorial. So the last video technically we just changed something, we fixed our deployment, and the video before that we figured out how to deploy our game or export it so that we could send it around or upload it. But the video before that is when we actually did some programming. So as a reminder, we now have two fully functioning towers with their own projectile systems, speed, damage, effects, all that kind of good stuff. I've been saying for a few videos now that we're going to go through and comment everything, so we're going to do that now and maybe clean up some of the code just a little bit, not some huge optimization, but just some variable name fixes again, kind of like I forget what the episode was called, 10 episodes back, like housekeeping or something like that. Organization, that's what it was called. Kind of like that. So we'll comment through and make it a little bit easier to understand, because in the spirit of everyone now being able to export their game and send it along, I think it's important that everyone really understands the inner workings of what makes the game works, so that you can go ahead on your own and expand whatever parts of the game that you want to expand. So yeah, let's do that. We'll try to get through these warnings too in our classes. First off, and you don't need to type this exactly because as I explained earlier, the comments aren't read by the machine, really. So you can write whatever you want. It doesn't need to match exactly what I'm saying. I'm just going to write it. I'm going to write what I do to make it easier for me to understand. But if you can reword it in a way that makes more sense to you, then by all means, go for it. So begin session. I'm sorry about the cars outside. It's really hot, and I have my fan and AC off because it gets picked up by the microphone, so my window's open, and sometimes the cars combine and get kind of loud. Let's see, call static method in artist class to initialize. Alright, so that's basically what this is doing, right? And it's important to note that it is in the artist class, which is some information that we can't really tell from here without doing that, which is a whole lot of work. No, but really, it's good to actually comment in and explain to yourself. It'll help you understand in the long run why we're doing what we're doing and how important everything is. I'm not going to go through every line. I'm not going to comment all of these. But something like ahead of this, just type in main game loop can be helpful in the future, where we realize that literally everything that happens in our game is these 4 lines when you get down to it. So we update our time, our state manager updates whatever we're doing, whether it be editing or playing, and then we have our display doing our updates and our syncs. So that's everything that happens in our game. I'm going to go ahead and go to the next class here. Let's go to our checkpoint class. This one's pretty self-explanatory. I'm not going to put comments for, get tile, get X direction, get Y direction. I don't think there's anything we need to change in here. I think that's okay. Editor. First off, I can delete this line. I don't know if you would have that or not. Grid, index, types. I guess this is okay to have in the constructor. Might want to change it eventually. Index equals 0. Yeah, we're setting a lot of values in our constructor here. That's fine. Oh yeah, we were going to change this eventually. I forgot about that. So if we have 50 tile types, we don't want to list all these right here. Maybe I'll do that next episode. I forgot we were going to change that a while ago. So here we already have some comments. Handling mouse input, handling keyboard input, set tile. Move index, we'll say which tile type, I guess. Tile type is selected. So if you recall, this is to change. The move index occurs when we hit the, oops, I didn't mean to do that. When we hit the right arrow key. And I forgot my map is so ugly. And it lets you change what you're painting. So that's what our index is. So you can name that or comment that however you want to comment that. Let's go ahead and go to the enemy class. I'm trying to go quick here because I know it's not super exciting, but it's kind of important. For instance, we can get these to be a little bit better here. So we're setting them inside here outside of the constructor, which isn't great. So we'll just set it like this. First, they're both equal to true off the bat. We're not setting them anywhere else, are we? First and alive. No. So yeah, let's just set them, let's just declare them here. First and alive. And then inside of our constructor, like good programmers, we'll use this blank spot right here. This dot, come on, load. First, yes, intelligent code completion equals true. And this dot, yes, I don't know why it's doing that, equals true. Again, it's always good practice to be as specific as possible, so instead of directions, we'll put this dot directions right here to match what we already have. X direction and Y direction we already have labeled for 0 and 1. Wow, this is so long ago that we made this. Or at least it seems like forever ago. I guess if you just go through all these episodes in 5 minutes, then it's not that long. Let's see. Check if it's the first time. And we'll probably rework how this works too. This is pretty rudimentary. Maybe that's not the right word. Pretty... I'll let you guys fill in the right word I'm looking for. We'll rework how this works. We have this in a couple different areas in our code, just because it's a quick and dirty way to kind of skip the first rotation of updates, where we have a variable for the first update, and we say if it's the first one, do nothing else, do all this stuff. But for now, we can leave that there. If checkpoint reached, if current checkpoint +1 equals checkpoint set size, end of maze. All right. Check if there are more. End of maze reached, else current checkpoint ++. What does this do? So if checkpoint reached or else, oh, okay. Oops. If not at a checkpoint, continue in current direction. End of maze reached. Run when the last checkpoint is reached by enemy. Checkpoint reached, boolean reached equals false. So I'm just kind of muttering to myself here. I'm kind of going through and thinking to myself, check if position reached, tile. Check if position reached, tile, well then variance of 3 arbitrary. Probably could have worded that better, but at least I understand what this does now. And this arbitrary 3 we can modify later and kind of make it more dynamic. Reached equals true. Alright. Populate checkpoint list. We add the first one. We'll say that. Add first checkpoint manually based on start tile. And while going forward, find next direction check if a next direction checkpoint exists, and after 20 checkpoints, arbitrary. Okay, I'm glad we commented that as well. Checkpoint find next C, tile next, checkpoint C equals null, boolean. So we already did do some commenting here, I forgot about that. Okay. What about this? Find next D. Check if current above, right, down, or left. So remember, this is just going through every single one and saying, does the tile type that we're currently on, once they reach a checkpoint, match the one above me? If so, I'll go up. If not, does it match the one to the right? If so, I'll go to the right, so on and so forth. And then we could probably delete these extra lines here. Damage. This is, to be clear, take damage from external source, because it's in our enemy class, so we're taking the damage, and it's a public variable, so we're calling it from outside the class. Because it's in our enemy class, so we're taking the damage, and because it's a public variable, so we're calling it from outside the class. Player modified cache. I don't know if that really needs a comment, but you can if you want. Just say that we're calling a static method in the player class. Die is, I don't think you get much more self-explanatory than that, but feel free to comment it if you want. Draw, we don't need really drawing. Let's see. Texture. Oh, I guess we can say enemy texture and then health bar textures. And we don't need this, the getters and setters, we understand. Entity, super easy. Game. Grid, wave manager, player. You can comment this stuff if you want. I think it's pretty straightforward. We make a grid, make a grid, wave manager, player, and then we set up our player, and then we update that. I'm not trying to bore you guys by commenting everything, but feel free to add comments that I don't if you think that it'd help you out. Main menu. We haven't been in here in a while. It's like a blast from the past. Add button, add button, add button. I really like the way we did this, by the way. I like that we have a simple kind of way to add clickable interfaces to our game. We might do a little facelift on it. Well, I mean, obviously we'll add a lot of more functionality to it, but I like the simple way we have it so far. I mean, the menu class is so small. You know, all of this is our update buttons, pretty easy. Update buttons, I guess we could say, check if a button is clicked by the user, and if so, do an action. Update, I don't think we need that. Or we don't need to comment that. Player, cache, lives. Again, see, this is what I was talking about earlier. We like list the same 4 lines in multiple places in our code. And if you're repeating a lot of code in a lot of places, generally, not always, generally it means that you're doing something not as efficient as you could be. So maybe next episode we'll go through and find a better way to work with our tile type statically or some other way. Left mouse, right mouse, cache live, setup. Let's see. Oops. Modify cache thing we got. Modify lives we got. Update. This is just important for right now because it's important to note that we're not doing any checks that the towers are, you know, still alive. I don't know why they died, but I mean, who knows? Maybe enemies will do damage, or maybe the tower will be upgraded and deleted. Or sold. So it's good to kind of keep in mind that we are updating all the towers in the game, and if we change that, we can change the comment to kind of correspond with that. I'll delete this extra line. Mouse input, keyboard input. Oh, left mouse button down. Do we really want to go through those variables? I don't think so. I think we got that. Projectile. This is pretty clean. We did a good job in this class. Calculate direction, calculate direction. Let's see. If target.getX is less than X. Set direction based on position of target relative to tower. Feel free to reword that. But it makes sense to me. If it's to the left of our tower, then our x velocity is a negative number. If it's to the right of our tower, then our y velocity... Oh, you know what I mean. If it's above or below, left or right, we set our velocity to be correct that way. Damage, because we have the same name as our enemy class. Maybe you don't, but I do. I'm going to note that this deal damage to enemy. I'll say it's external because I don't think we have... Actually, no, I'll just keep it as enemy. Update, if alive, do all that stuff. Draw, damage, check collision. Okay. Halfway done here. This is just saying we don't need that import anymore, so I can delete that. There goes the warning. This I don't need. That was the leftover from the ice ball class. And this is a pretty simple class. I think we're good there. Ice ball, we don't need the texture again. And we're good here. Projectile type, I think it's pretty simple. Yeah, I think it's pretty simple. I think we're good here. Tile, pretty simple class as well. Not much to see here. Tile grid. Let's see. New red. I mean, we could just change this. Might as well. We set it right above it. There's no reason to not go off of the variables there. For it's a double nested array. We set all the tiles based on our tile size, and we started with grass. I don't think we need to go through this too much. New map. Set tile, get tile, draw. I think we got that. Those are the first few episodes. Tile type, very simple class. Tower, we have an import that we do not need, or two actually, right there and there. And we're not using damage. This is our abstract class. Damage, we're not using damage? Has that been replaced by our tower type? I think it has, so let's get rid of damage. Because that's in our tower type now. We can get rid of it right here as well. And that clears up our warnings. Acquire target. Let's see, closest distance, arbitrary distance larger than map to help with sorting enemy distances. For enemy. Go through each enemy in enemies and return closest, turn nearest one. Go through it all, blah blah blah, if it's in range, yep. If closest not equal, if an enemy exists and is returned targeted equals true. Is in range. I think we got that. Find distance, okay. Calculate angle. I don't know, I mean, some of this might be not super self-explanatory, but I don't know if it's really worth commenting as much as it is just, this is how you calculate an angle, you know, using tangents and whatnot. That's kind of like if you have some geometry or calculus experience, and it'll make sense to you. Shoot is abstract. Maybe it's worth commenting. Abstract method for shoot must be overridden in subclasses. Enemy list, update. If not targeted, then find a target. Or else, if we are targeted, then calculate the angle and shoot if we can shoot. You can comment this if you want, I'm not going to. And we're good there. Tower cannon. Damage. Again, we don't need damage here, so we can get rid of that. And here as well. Start tile. Do we not need that anymore? We're not using start tile? That doesn't make sense. X equals start tile. Got this dot start tile equals start tile. Start tile, start tile. I guess we just never use it except for inside the constructor to get the X and the Y. So I mean, technically we don't really need it. We don't really need to store the start tile. We can actually get rid of that. Yeah, we can get rid of that. We just need it for the constructor we passed in here, just to get the X and the Y out of it. We don't need to store it for later, really. And that all looks good. Acquire target is the same exact thing as our tower abstract class here. Tower cannon. Okay. This is actually our older class too, I just realized. So we're not doing much in there. I'm like, why is it so big? Here's our tower cannon blue. It's like 15 lines. Anyway, that's pretty clean. We'll probably delete our tower cannon class, but I'm hesitant to yet. You don't want to delete something when you might need it in the future. This we can delete right here. I could delete that right there. Tower type, pretty simple. All of our type classes are pretty straightforward, I think. Wave, we're importing stuff we don't need. An array list, because we're now using a copy on write array list. Update, Boolean all enemies dead equals true. What? Boolean all enemies dead equals true. We're starting as true. If enemy spawned is less than for enemy, if enemy is alive. Oh, okay, so we start it as true, and then we update through the list, and we say if we find one that's alive, then it's false. It's kind of an interesting way to do it. Assume all enemies are dead until for loop proves otherwise. Okay. Update draw. That looks kind of weird, but it's fine. If all enemies are dead, then wave complete equals true. Spawn. All right. Wave manager. Time since last wave. It's not being used, but I still want to keep it. Still want to keep it because we're going to end up using it. We can delete these spaces in here, and I think this is pretty straightforward. So that's about it. So, not super exciting, admittedly. You know, every once in a while we got to kind of do this and just kind of go through. We didn't add that much to it, but we added a few comments that hopefully if you guys go off on your own, will explain some things and make it a little bit easier to know exactly what everything does in the game. If you have questions about any part of the code, this is a good video to leave the question on as a comment or on Patreon or what have you. And I will maybe add some comments explaining the part that's confusing to you in the next video or the next couple videos. So that is all for this episode. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next week on Indie Programmer.